across businesses. Today, we're going to dive into his vision of balancing tradition with transformation, building resilient supply systems, the impact of climate change on our food sector, and how NFL is fostering a culture of innovation and long-term value creation. Welcome to the show.
Thank
Hasan,
you for having me.
how are you doing today?
Not too bad.
All right. Okay, great. So you've had over 2 decades of experience and then leadership at NFL. What defines operational excellence at a high growth business legacy like National Foods?
Before we go into operational excellence, I think it's important to understand how the business is conducted in National Foods. So in National Foods, we are operating we are a multi-category company. It's believed that we sell spices or spice mixes, but that's only 40% of our business. So we have around 10 to 12 active categories in which we operate, and on a majority of which we are market leaders as well. So 10 categories, 250 odd products, which we in FMCG parlance call SKUs, which means that a lot of complexity. Now, operational excellence for National Foods is almost mandated because of the complexity that we have to navigate through. Operational excellence for us as a company is about mindset. It's about a culture. It's not about driving a certain KPI. It's not about driving a certain goal. It's about how you operate or how you work every day. And it applies to every employee. For National Foods, operational excellence is about collaboration. Since we are, as I said, a complex business, we need to make sure all functions are collaborating, coordinating, co-creating. And as a result, we are able to drive the maximum out of the potential of the company and of the brands. That obviously easier said than done.
Yes.
It requires a completely different kind of a culture and a mindset where, we need to have an inclusive culture. We need to be talking to each other. We need to create forums where the younger lot their voice is heard. So we have to cut through hierarchies as well. So we have a big company. We have around 760 odd employees. Just to make sure that the voice of every employee is heard, he has a stake and a purpose behind his work. We need to create that inclusive culture. And for that, I think, again, that itself is an effort that the leadership has to do, the management has to do on a day-to-day basis. And that drives operational excellence. Now, closing on operational excellence, how that shows or reflects in the organization's performance is that you will have a higher speed to market. You will have more agility and flexibility as an organization, and you will set standards. National Foods sets its own standards and then chases that standard to beat it.
Right.
So every year we try to beat our own set standard, and that's the mindset that we operate in.
Right. So National Foods is National Foods' biggest competitor.
Yeah, that's the mindset we have. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So food in Pakistan and elsewhere, but quite a bit in Pakistan, has an emotional sort of connection. How has National Foods been able to maintain or keep that emotional connection intact while also making room for innovation and new traditions and, just the different aspects that younger people now bring?
Yeah. So as I said, National Foods is a multi-category food company. You can compare National Foods with any of the FMCGs, food FMCGs in the industry, and you'll figure out that probably the number of categories that we operate in are probably the maximum. So we truly are a food company. However, we started as a spice company, so we've evolved. So the legacy of us being a spice company, spice mix company, is very strongly entrenched in the consumer's mind. And that is the legacy that we value, but we need to evolve and grow out of it as well. If we personify the national brand, the key words that usually pop out are reliability, trustworthiness, authenticity, rich in tradition, So these are the key buzzwords. But uh, having said that, I think the important thing to understand is that the country's demographic is also changing. Today, 60% of Pakistan's population is around 250 million. 60% of us are born after 1996.
Yeah.
Which means,
It's
we
a
have
very
a
young-
60%, more than half of our population is Gen Zs and Gen Alphas. Now, Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, why are they important? These young individuals think differently. They have information in their palms. They make informed decisions. They have their own viewpoints. They like exploring. They like traveling. They like interacting. They are much more confident than people of my generation were at that age. So that is reflecting in the consumption pattern as well. Example that I can give you is you look at chocolate. Pakistan traditionally, if you look at flavor profiles, Pakistan was a mango market, orange market, vanilla market, strawberry market to some extent. And you can figure that out if you look at the ice cream flavors we used to have available. But in the last 15 to 20 years, Pakistan has become a very heavy chocolate consumption market. You see, chocolate brands, you see, chocolate ice cream, you see a lot of chocolate cakes, fudge cakes, being sold. So Pakistan has changed. The flavor profile has changed. Another example could be cheese on the savory side. Cheese was never a core flavor for a market like Pakistan. I worked in a company outside Pakistan where our main business was cheese, and we never looked at Pakistan as a key market. GCC was a big market, not Pakistan. It has changed now in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Cheese, there's a major consumption for cheese.
It's a major component, right?
through restaurants and even at home now. So the market is changing. One major reason for that change is the changing demographic and the numbers that I mentioned to you, 60%. And this is now. And of that 60%, 12% of that Gen Z and Alphas, especially Gen Z, are part of the labor force. So they're working. And if they're working, that means that they are making their own choices. They will have families. Then they will make choices for their children as well. And the consumption patterns that we are seeing are then going to reflect on family consumption. 2030, we'll have Gen Zs and Gen Alphas around 60% still, but 35% of that Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, of that 60%, will be part of the labor force. So in 5 years' time, 1/3 of the Gen Zs and Gen Alphas will be part of the labor force. They'll be influencing decision making. They'll be making their own choices. So imagine how many of these Gen Zs and Gen Alphas will be having biryani every week.
Right.
How many of these Gen Zs and Gen Alphas will be having achar gosht every week? So the mandate on us is that we need to evolve our brand, because our brand is taken more traditional. So we need to be more contemporary as a brand. And then our portfolio needs to be more relevant. And those are the areas which we're working on. One such example for that is the recent launch that we had for sauces, where we launched National Drizzle. And Drizzle is a range of Western, sauces that we recently introduced in the market. While it's still endorsed by the national brand, but the vibe of Drizzle as a brand is very contemporary, very Gen Z and Gen Alpha focused, and that's where we're trying to evolve with our current brand and create new brands to resonate more with the younger audience.
So does this create friction between traditionalists and then modern needs actually?
So I think that's where the balance lies. I mean, that's where the trick is, that you need to you still have to remain strongly entrenched with the tradition. So we're not losing on the core, which is the core of National as a brand, the legacy that we have, and how we evolve rather than complete departure, but evolve as a brand, become more contemporary. One way, obviously, is to minimize friction, is to do gradual steps. You would notice in our recent communications, you would notice that we take more younger audience compared to the older middle-aged audience. again, the nuance is that we need to be closer with the younger population. You would have seen the last three years back, we relaunched our recipe mix packaging as well. It became much more contemporary, much more colorful, and the whole idea was that we need to evolve. But it has to be done where we minimize friction. We become a brand of new ages. There are several examples across the world where brands evolve, and we need to do that while maintaining the tradition that we have.
Okay, amazing. And in your sort of attempt to understand the newer markets and their needs, are you using data analytics or AI for the to optimize supply chains, operations, and then also market trends and how that takes you forward?
So I think the world, obviously, data, AI or use of data science, I think it's inevitable across the globe. So the usage will only increase. The way we work will change. It's already changing. But our view is that it's a process, especially in a market like Pakistan. We have to evolve as a market in terms of usage of data science and getting some benefit out of it. So in some cases, we've already started using AI. For example, in terms of measuring our out of stock on shelf, on the store shelf, we started using AI. We are planning to introduce AI in demand planning process as well, the business planning process. We use technology for like data, real-time data for our distributor sales, distributor warehousing. So we get real-time data for that as well. So we're starting, but I think we are cognizant as an organization that it's not going to be a revolution. At times, I think the world just gets a bit carried away in terms of what data can potentially do. Yes, it will, but I think we need to just pass through certain milestones to get there. And let's not forget that data or data science, eventually the users are humans. Eventually it goes down to humans, and humans have to use it. How well they use it will obviously, determine the success of data science. And so humans have to be ready to actually utilize that data. Absolutely. So I think we're there. We're trying to keep pace, and we're going to continue introducing new tools to modernize our and scientifically qualify whatever we did.
Right.
But it's going to take time.
Right. No, of course. And I think the first step to that before we get there even is digital transformation, right? And how that's... And so you've been leading that at NFL and otherwise. And so can you explain how that has impacted manufacturing, quality control, distribution at NFL?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, distribution I've already shared. We have introduced, our softwares are such now, are updated that, we get real-time data on sales, on stocks, etc., etc. What we're doing on a manufacturing front is that we are trying to use data to homogenize our processes. Usually what happens in traditional Pakistan manufacturing is there's a lot of usage of labor for manufacturing. And labor, when you're using labor, human, let's call it human, when you're using humans to manufacture products, you will have inconsistency. When human involvement is there will be inconsistency. Yeah. So we are using tools like SCADA in our Faisalabad, newly developed Faisalabad plant, to actually homogenize in terms of the kind of dosing we are putting in our ketchup. The process is becoming more and more uniform, and that will obviously result in a more consistent product for consumers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, amazing. You have over 600. You just mentioned 760. Team members in this extremely competitive and growing talent market. How are you able to sort of revive excellence and provide job security and get accountability and all of that in?
No, I think I get your question. I think that's a very that's a burning question nowadays for all corporates working in Pakistan,
especially with the Gen Zs coming our way.
Yes, you're right. See, the way I see it, and the way National Food see it, is that the net ready talent available in the country is declining. And when I say ready talent, I mean that at all levels, at different levels within any organization or in the industry, the talent available to take up a certain position, that on a net basis, that's declining. Reasons are obviously people are immigrating more, especially the educated and skilled class. Then there are more opportunities, job opportunities in the GCC nowadays. So the ready talent has more attractiveness and lure to be consumed in a market like the GCC or for immigration. So net ready talent is declining. Now, organizations like National Foods, what we are doing, so we have a two-pronged approach. Number one, what we are doing is that we are locally developing our own talent, National Foods talent. So we are developing a pool of ready talent. How do we do that? So we have a capability. We've launched a framework, career framework within National Foods, with the principle of that in easy, explained in an easy way, is that people should be hired for potential, not for a certain role.
Right.
We should hire for potential. We should hire people for who they can be in the next 5 to 10 years, if given the right exposure, rather than what job they can do today.
Yeah.
Then we give them an array of different experiences. The example could be that we hire someone in procurement, but we then move him to the plant, and then later on he goes into a different in sales. So he gets different broadening experiences, and that's with experience, his capability and skill sets will grow. He will get a career. He will get opportunities to grow as an individual. As a result, he will remain engaged, and we will develop a talent pool. So that's one approach that we are taking. The other approach that we are doing is that we have every year we have management trainee programs. We onboard fresh talent, and we start grooming them for that to become that ready talent for the organization. One issue with that usually is that when you have the younger group joining in, they want to explore the industry, they want to switch jobs, etc., etc. So we have also tailored our approach on how we handle the young talent, where we move them quicker into different roles so that they get exposure, they start learning, and when they start they have a purpose in their job, they will remain engaged.
Right.
So that's how we're trying to retain our talent. Our attrition rate is around 2%. Which is fairly good compared to what the industry would be like.
Absolutely. Moving on a little bit towards more global affairs. So Pakistan, given its volatile sort of economic, geopolitical, and climate landscape, how is National Foods future-proofing itself?
Yes. So Pakistan, especially, I think globally we're facing a multitude of challenges. So it's very complex right now. We have trade wars, we have actual wars going on. Yeah. Then we have the impact of climate change as well, and Pakistan is obviously not shielded from that. I think the awakening moment for us and the industry as a whole was 2022, when post-COVID we had those global supply chain crises across the world, where supply chain was trying to catch up with the renewed demand across the globe. Then Pakistan had its own set of challenges, where we were going through an economic turmoil and imports were restricted, and as a result of that, supply chain sustainability became a big question mark. And I think National Foods also realized that we need to create multi-sourcing supply chain, strategy, where we just don't depend on one source, and be as indigenous as possible in terms of sourcing. So a lot of raw materials like starches, flavors, gums, tomato paste was being imported, and we started working on developing local supply chain base. We've been successful in a number of cases, and that's an ongoing project which we continue doing that. I think that's the major one, where we see that, we need to rely more on indigenous sourcing and less on, international sourcing, so that we are able to maintain supply chain sustainability.
That's honestly absolutely great work. And I'm sure, I mean, I think it plays a really critical role in Pakistan's larger food security narrative as well. And if it's something that could be, well, as you are expanding it, and I'm sure that other companies are doing so, and perhaps, on a government level.
Yes.
Okay, so sustainability is also increasingly critical, from waste management, energy efficiency to sustainable packaging. What efforts is National Foods taking in this regard?
See, sustainability is something which we started working almost 4 or 5 years back. I'll name a few major projects that we've worked on. I talked about recipe mix packaging change. When we made that packaging change, we actually reduced the paper usage in that packaging. And if you notice, you'll see that, we have an eco-friendly packing logo, watermark on the packaging as well. What did that mean? So we are using 25% less paper, which reduces the usage of, carbon by almost 17 to 20%. And we sell in millions of packs. So you can imagine the impact that, a small change has done.
Of course, yeah.
Similarly, we're doing, in terms of sustainability, we are also looking at reducing the pack size of, a few other, not the grammage, but the pack size of, some of our products. Wherever we can eliminate, the use of paper or reels, we're evaluating that. We're also looking at, we're also evaluating how we can reduce the usage of ink as well during the printing process. So we are working with the packaging material suppliers on how we can reduce the consumption of ink. So that again helps in driving sustainability.
Right, amazing. With regards to global exports, how are you maintaining those standards? Again, in two situations: one, a very volatile geopolitical situation, and two, in an extremely competitive environment.
So one area where we see, while we talk about the net ready talent and people migrating, that's an opportunity for all Pakistani food companies to venture into markets like the GCC or North America or Europe, Australia. So right now, as we see, we have around $22 million of exports going from Pakistan to internationally across the globe. And we want to expand it to around $60 to $70 million in the next 4 or 5 years. So we see a significant increase in, the consumption of our products internationally. A, the population is increasing, as we talked about. B, I think with new generations, like there are people who moved many years back, and their new generation would, obviously they're born and raised in a different part of the world, but they still want to fuse the Asian and Pakistani flavor.
Absolutely.
And so that actually creates a lot of opportunities to come up with unique products, which, appeals that audience. And that audience will only grow in numbers.
Right.
So we're working in those areas, in innovation, in improving our route to market, and as a result, improve our export sales as well.
Okay, amazing. And, before we close, how does it at all, does customer feedback play a role in National Foods innovation cycle? And do you maybe have an example, if possible, if, customer insights have led to some major shift?
Sure. So I think what we've done, one thing that we've been doing very successfully in the last 3 or 4 years, is that we want to become a consumer-centric organization. So every function should think about how he's adding value or she's adding value to the consumer or the consumption experience of our products. So to do that, what we've started very actively doing is that we have focus groups with consumers, and it's not limited to the marketing function. So we involve and engage key stakeholders across the organization so that they understand how consumers think. So they bring those insights into their, their job and their roles, whether it's supply chain, R&D, finance, any function. I think that has dramatically changed in the way we as an organization have started thinking about how we can deliver better experience to our consumers. That's one thing. Second thing is that we are investing very heavily on research and research more to understand how the consumption trends are changing, how consumers are thinking differently, more than just validation in terms of, what we are doing, is it right or not? Usually the bias is that, most, organizations are looking for, do research to validate. But beyond validation, we're looking at exploring and understanding what consumers think and how they're thinking and how will they think in future. As a result of that, we've actually launched a few products. One particular one that I would want to mention, I'm sure it may be your favorite as well, is the crushed pickle variant that we have. And that's something which came based on consumer insights, based on, a particular insight, specific insight, which we picked from the consumer, which was the multiple usage that, multiple usage that crushed pickle can give compared to the traditional pickle. So now crushed pickle can be used in parathas, crushed pickle can be used in over dal chawal, crushed pickle can be used in, in cooking. You scoop out the crushed pickle and use it. And the results were phenomenal, not just locally, but internationally as well. Crushed pickle is a global hit for national foods. So that's one major one which we picked up. But insight-driven innovation obviously takes time, and you may not always be successful.
Right.
So we need to continue trying and continue getting insights and pick up those areas which, which can give us better results.
Right.
And then put resources behind it.
Absolutely. But it's great to see that National did, put their weight behind customer feedback that led to great things for National itself, not just here, but globally. Thank you for having this conversation with us and for, really reminding us that leading doesn't always mean strategy. Sometimes it's about balancing what you want to hold on to and with what you dare to change. So thank you for reminding us of that. And it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to follow the Express Tribune podcast and stay tuned for more conversations with today's leaders shaping tomorrow's industries. Until then, this is Aram Sheikh signing out. Hello and welcome to another exclusive episode on the Express Tribune podcast, where we go behind the scenes and speak with leaders shaping our industries. My name is Aram Sheikh, and joining me today is Mr. Hasan Sarwat, Chief Operating Officer at National Foods Limited. With over 20 years of experience, Hasan has been driving innovation, operational excellence, and sustainability across businesses. Today, we're going to dive into his vision of balancing tradition with transformation, building resilient supply systems, the impact of climate change on our food sector, and how NFL is fostering a culture of innovation and long-term value creation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Not too bad.
All right. Okay, great. So you've had over 2 decades of experience and then leadership at NFL. What defines operational excellence at a high growth business legacy like National Foods?
Before we go into operational excellence, I think it's important to understand how the business is conducted in National Foods. So in National Foods, we are operating we are a multi-category company. It's believed that we sell spices or spice mixes, but that's only 40% of our business. So we have around 10 to 12 active categories in which we operate, and on a majority of which we are market leaders as well. So 10 categories, 250 odd products, which we in FMCG parlance call SKUs, which means there's a lot of complexity. Now, operational excellence for National Foods is almost mandated because of the complexity that we have to navigate through. Operational excellence for us as a company is about mindset. It's about a culture. It's not about driving a certain KPI. It's not about driving a certain goal. It's about how you operate or how you work every day. And it applies to every employee. For National Foods, operational excellence is about collaboration. Since we are, as I said, a complex business, we need to make